welcome. So today we're going to talk about authenticating the birth certificate. Does anyone know what the birth certificate is? The birth certificate, what is it?
What the real meaning of the birth certificate are just birth certificate?
Just whatever comes to your mind.
Okay.
Don't look at that.
Okay. My birth certificate is that thing that my mom get at the hospital.
Yeah.
With my name, my mom's name.
So that's what most people think that it is.
Yeah.
But it has a more sinister background to it. Now, most people will say, if you authenticate the birth certificate with the executive branch of government, meaning the Secretary of State, then you get title to an estate. Right? Now, title to an estate means ownership of land. So in order for us to actually understand what authenticating the birth certificate is, and to deal with all these proposed things like if you authenticate it, then you get access to this unlimited amount of money. And if you authenticate it, then you can discharge all your debts. Right? And if you authenticate it, then you become a secured party creditor, and you get title to an estate, and you become the administrator of the trust, and you can discharge the debt, and you can go into court and say to the magistrate that I'm the holder of this instrument, and I'm the beneficiary and grantor and administrator of this instrument because I got it authenticated by the Secretary of State. So that's what people are presented with, that if you get this document certified from the Secretary of State, that you become something. In order to explain how that's not true, we have to go into what it actually is. So I'm going to read birth certificate from the law book, and it's going to sound very similar to what you just said. Birth certificate is a formal document which certifies as to date the place of one's birth and a recitation of his or her parentage as issued by an official in charge of such records. Furnishing of such is often required to prove one's age. Now, the birth certificate is related to the book of Revelations. In the book of Revelations, chapter 12, it talks about the issuing of the birth certificate. So this is the King James Version. Book of Revelations, the seventh trumpet. And there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun and the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars. And she being with child, cried, traveling in birth, and pained to be delivered. And there appeared another wonder in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon. Now, what is the position of one of the Ku Klux Klan? The red dragon. Right. Having 7 heads and 10 horns, and 7 crowns upon his head. And his tail drew the third part of the 7 stars of heaven, and did cast them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman, which was ready to be delivered, for to devour her child as soon as it was born. Now, who's standing at the woman when the child's ready to be born? The doctor, right? And we all know these politicians and these high so-called officials within so-called government are part of the KKK, right? Even if you don't know your more, you've seen some of the so-called black history, and you see that these Klansmen are deep within the political sphere. They're mayors, they're chiefs of police, they're doctors, they're statesmen, they're politicians, they're teachers, they're all these positions, right? So when you see that doctor, now pay attention to doctor, right? Standing at this woman as she's ready to deliver her child, to devour the child. That devouring is placing that debt on that child the second it's born. Right? So if you look at the board, I wrote down a birth certificate. Let me just turn it to the camera. Oh, you want to do that, please? A birth certificate, when you break down the definition of birth, it's related to B-E-R-T-H, which means to anchor a ship, which is the bonding of a ship to the ground, right? Because when a ship enters a dock, right? When a ship enters a dock, it gets grounded or bonded, right? So this is where you hear people say that the birth certificate is a bond, because it's attaching something to something else, right? Then you see under that the word birth. The root word of birth is bear, right? So like, if you bear a burden, you take on that burden, right? That word is also connected to born, which means to carry or to take on. So as soon as that child is born, they're making it so that you take on a debt that don't belong to you, right? Then, as you see, a birth certificate is certifying that a ship has docked, right? And what is this called? Your belly button, right?
Navel.
Your navel. Navigation, right? L meaning God. We are the navigating God on this planet. And our body is over 70% water. This is a vessel, a ship, for our soul. You see the connection? So this is a ship. We're coming out of our mother's waters into the doctor's hands. So they're anchoring us with the birth certificate, which is a debt instrument, right? So that birth certificate is really tracking or logging when that ship entered the dock to see how much it owes to the person who owns the dock, right? Because if you own a port, doesn't that mean whatever ships come in that port has to pay you, right? For taking up space? That's what a birth certificate is. And all these European governors are substitute bays, because bays used to run ports, which is a Moorish title, right? So basically, thus when the ship is docked, the birth certificate is a bond, and the ship, which is really the captain, bears the burden or debt of paying the fee to be docked. That's simple, right? Thus, since the people were lost at sea and allowed to dock, the child owes the substitute bay for life. So now when we're talking about this, we're talking about the Cestui V Act of 1666, 1666, which is dealing with the Inquisition, which is really a continuation of the Crusades, the Spanish Inquisition against the Moors and the so-called Jews, which are really Moors. All right, so now we're going to talk about some documents that prove that it's one and the same. So before you go authenticating the birth certificate, you have to know this history, because you can't practice law without knowing history. Right?
This relates to two types of persons, the live person and the
artificial person. Yeah.
So they create an artificial person to bond you into the birth certificate.
Yeah. So basically, what they do is they write on a piece of paper something that looks and sounds like your name, get you to agree to it, because that piece of paper owes a debt. That's how they're transferring the debt to us. That's why it's called a transmitting the debt to you, utility. By you utilizing it, you transfer your energy to them. Simple, right? So now I'm going to be reading from my book, Are You Confused About Law?, which you can find on ridesandmore.org. Let's read some history of the Inquisition. Inquisition and Crusades. We'll just start off from 1095 AD. Pope Urban II orders the first crusade against the Moors. In 1139, March 29th, 1139, Pope Innocent II endorses the Knights Templar and promises ownership of all Moorish territories conquered by them while exempting them from tithes. It's called Omni Datum Optimum. That's the papal bull. So the Pope is declaring these things. Because remember, these Europeans pledged their allegiance to the popes of Rome to fight against us. Right? Then, let's see, in 1145 AD, Militia Dei, which is Soldiers of God, Pope Eugene III establishes a foundation of the Knights Templar, as well as their collective successes in conquering and continued stolen wealth, allowing them safe passage to travel through Europe freely. Pope Gregory VIII orders the Third Crusade in 1187. Pope Innocent III orders the Fourth Crusades in 1199. Pope Innocent III orders the Fifth Crusades in 1213, which also, what happened in 1212, King Alfonso VIII, which when you do research on the Alfonso family, the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th to the 8th, were warring against the Moors. So this was 8 generations of Europeans fighting against Moors. Along with the king of Aragon and Portugal, basically won a crucial battle in Spain, which led to the secret treaty of Verona, where the king of England submitted their authority to the Pope of Rome. Right, which is why every time the Pope comes here, the President of the United States has to kiss his ring, because they have allegiance to the Pope. Then in 1219, Pope Honorius III closed all law schools, and forbid the study of law. In 1223, Pope Gregory IX orders the Inquisition by the Church. In 1234, the bull of Rieti, next to piety, which is dealing with perpetual servitude, Pope Gregory issues the Church Bulla, which confirms the German order of Comerland and recognizing any land conquered by them, which is the Teutonic Knights, in Persia, as well as places those unwilling to convert to Christianity or Catholicism, known as heretics, declared them as owners, as long as they answered exclusively to the sovereign authority of the Pope. So the Pope said, if you go out and conquer these people, we'll bless you in the public eye as long as you submit to us. All right? Let's see what else we got here. Pope Innocent IV in 1244 issues the burning of the Talmud, which is the Jewish Bible. Pope Innocent IV refuses a synagogue to be built in the city of Cordoba in 1250. In 1252, Pope Innocent IV authorizes torture during the Inquisition. Pope Innocent IV expels Moors from France in 1253. What else we got? This is Unum Sanctum, which means the Holy One. So these are all papal bulls, meaning decrees issued by the Pope. So in 1302, Pope Boniface VIII declares that there is no salvation outside the Church, and that the Church must remain unified, and the dogmatic propositions that belong to the Church are necessary for extra salvation of the positions of the Pope, and the position of the Pope is the supreme head of all churches, while also asserting authority over the King of England, claiming his power is temporal and the Church's power is more divine. By this time, the Church had been operating under the secret treaty of Verona for about 90 years. Excuse me. Oh, excuse me, no, that's not true, I apologize. I made a mistake. So the secret treaty of Verona wasn't until 1814-ish, or 1822. But the kings were still submitting to the authority of the Pope. Let me see. And during this time, the Church had more support than the politicians. Just like today, most of our people go to church more than they vote. Most of our people go to church more than they practice politics. More of our people go to church more than they voice their opinion at City Hall. So there's no difference. Huh?
Church or the club, one of those two.
Both. Club on Saturday, church on Sunday. Let's see what else we got here. In 1452, Pope Nicholas V issued Dum Diversas, which means wild different, which authorized Alfonso V of Portugal to reduce any Moor who would not convert in any other unbelievers to perpetual servitude. And these are his words right here. We grant you, the kings of Spain and Portugal, by these present documents, with our apostolic authority, full and free permission to invade, search, capture, and subjugate the Saracens, which are Moors, and pagans, and any other unbelievers and enemies of Christ, wherever they may be, as well as their kingdoms, duchies, counties, principalities, and other property, and to reduce their persons into perpetual servitude. Now, when we're dealing with them and their property, this is where the birth certificate is used to hypothecate our land, and when any one of our parents dies, our estate goes to probate. That's what that is. They're claiming authority over everything that is ours. That's why we don't get to decide what part of our estate goes to who. It automatically goes to probate via the birth certificate, because they own that. Right? Because the estate is the land. They're using the birth certificate to get you to think that you're it, to steal your land. The land already exists, so it doesn't create title to an estate. The land been here. Right? In 1455, Pope Nicholas V grants Portugal perpetual monopoly in trade with Africa and allows the enforcement of servitude on Moors. In 1456, Pope Calixtus III issues another Antikythera, ceding Portuguese Order of Christ the spoils of all lands acquired and to be acquired by them. In 1456, the same Pope issues funding after the fall of Constantinople. In 1478, Alexander Sixtus, that's the fourth, authorizes Ferdinand and Isabella to appoint inquisitionists, creating another inquisition in Spain.
I thought it was the 6th.
Maybe, I may have the Roman numerals wrong. Yeah, it was the 6th, Alexander the 6th. Then in 1481, the Pope appoints Thomas de Torquemada as Grand Inquisitor General, which do your research on that guy. In 1492, it was the Moorish fall of Granada.
What was his name?
Who? Oh, Thomas, T-O-M-A-S, de Torquemada. D-E space T-O-R-Q-U-E-M-A-D-A. He was known for improving the torture techniques during the Inquisition. So, basically torturing people. He was the guy that invented a lot of the stuff. Then in May of 1493, Alexander VI was the Pope, which if you watch The Borgias on Netflix, you'll see who Alexander VI is and how ruthless his family was. And the third episode of the series is called The Moor. What's up?
You want to talk about his relation to Jesus?
I mean,
Alexander the Sixth, the Pope, the pale image of Jesus that you see now is actually painted in the likeness of that Pope Alexander the Sixth, who signed the okay for King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella to go ahead and start the Inquisition and to make their voyage over here.
you said the likeness of his son, right?
The image of Jesus is painted in the likeness of that Pope's son,
Yeah.
Cesare Borgia.
So in this Intercatera Divina of 1493, Pope Alexander VI issued a decree that once a land was seized by a Christian nation, another Christian nation could not seize or establish dominion over it. It also acted as the land-stealing doctrine of discovery, hidden and excused as the works of God, which forcibly converted all the people of America and other places in Africa to the Niceo-Constantinopolitan Creed, which is the official name of Christianity.
Mm-hmm.
Right? This bulla is followed by the mandate for Christopher Columbus to travel to these lands under the authority of Ferdinand and Isabella. So as you can see, the popes were very busy allowing these different Christian orders to lay claim to our land, which is the root of the birth certificate, right? So now if you all take out your phones and just Google this. So I'll take out your phones. Google TUI space QUE space VIE Act of 1666. It's the Cestui Que Vie Act of 1666. If you Google it, the first thing that pops up will say, Parliament enacted the CQV Act in a special closed-door session in 1666. The act was to subrogate the rights of the people by declaring all men and women dead, which is civiliter mortuus, which means dead in the eyes of the law. In quotations you put lost at sea, or lost beyond the seas, using admiralty law, the law of the sea, as the operating legal framework. And what did we just talk about the birth certificate? It's dealing with ships docking. So since the people have been branded lost at sea, because the Pope's order that no one can study law, so you're basically branded mentally incompetent, which in law means civiliter mortuus, which means you can't manage your own affairs because you're just not intelligent enough to do so. So since they found you lost at sea, they said, yes, come into our dock, and you can have safe passage here. Since you're at their dock, that means you have to pay them. That's simple, right? You get it? So that's how they're claiming ownership of our stuff. Any questions? We sure? Okay, so what does the word birth mean?
To bear
To bear?
the burden.
Okay. We get it, right? We get how the birth certificate is certifying that something was done. And since that thing was done, someone owes something, right? So we get how they're saying that since we agreed to be that person, we're taking on the debt. You understand that, right? So now we understand that we can't claim that, right? Especially since it was created by someone else to be used to rob us. Right? It's not like you have a gun pointed to my head and I can disarm you and then point it back at you, right? Because when they create this birth certificate, which is registered with the state, and then you create bank accounts in that name, if you authenticate that piece of paper, do you now have access to that bank account? Do you have the codes to the bank? Do you have the codes to the vault in the bank? No, you don't. Right? And then beyond that, when we're dealing with the Federal Reserve Act of 1913, when they took all the gold and silver coin out of circulation, they created Federal Reserve notes, which is not money, that they can just print at will. So now, do you have access to the Federal Reserve Bank?
No.
And then when you ask most of these people, yes,
The opinions of the people who want to authenticate the birth certificate, who will say, now I have this instrument, I will now go to the judge and let them know I'm the secure party creditor. This is what you guys did, I want access
So now-
to the funds.
so now,
Where are the funds?
So now, when you get the birth certificate authenticated, don't you have to go to the issuing authority to get that done? So when you get that done, does the issuing authority declare you the secured party creditor? No. So how can you then declare yourself the secured party creditor on someone else's property? Right? Because you can see these books, right? These are my books, they have my seal on it, meaning I created this. You can't say, well, I found out Jamal has books and he sells them and makes money, so now I'm gonna say, I'm the secured party creditor to this. How if I'm the grantor?
They're gonna litigate to the magistrate.
Okay.
You certify these documents, once you put it forward with your US seal.
Which just,
Now give me access because I am.
now, okay. I certify this with my seal, so you're gonna demand that I give you access to the money I make off my book?
That's the argument.
I'm just trying to put it like, does that make sense? No, it don't make sense. Can I be like, all right, I found out you got gold, in some hole somewhere, right? And then I'm saying, well, since I know about it, I'm claiming I'm a beneficiary to that now. Or now I'm a secure party, now I have an interest in that now.
But you're.
That's your money!
You're more now, you're saying you're a secured party creditor plus a more.
Yeah, now,
I want that money.
secured party creditor,
Sorry.
what credit do you have? And how are you secured?
The credit of the US corporation who's been, is cheating on the state, so they have access somewhere, so I want. And they're-
What's the access?
Talk to their president, talk to their,
Wait, no. See, if you're the secure party, why do you need to go someone else to get access to your estate if it's yours? So that makes you incompetent.
I mean, I've tried to get all the reasons why people
Yeah.
say these things, try to get their understanding of
Yeah.
why they're saying that, but I never.
It doesn't, because it doesn't make sense. This is your estate. It's right there, right? The land is everywhere. It ain't going nowhere. Right? So the land's right here. Why am I gonna do this? Give me my land back. When it's right there. Right? Doesn't the rights of indigenous people say we have the right to our land and resources back? So why do we keep going to another human for our stuff when it's right there?
Just notify them that I'm going to take access to my land, and if you impede upon my access to my land, I will.
But now you're talking about adverse possession. You're talking about asserting your right of claim to the estate, not dealing with a piece of paper that someone else created to keep you in bondage. That's like, I got a ball and chain on my leg, and I figure out, that shouldn't be there, and then I paint it gold, and I start saying, oh, it's mine now. That's authenticating the birth certificate. It doesn't change anything. The ball and chain is still there. It's still attached to you. And they're still putting the debt on you. Because remember, they can print the Federal Reserve note at will. Right? So there is no debt. Then they say, all obligations of the Federal Reserve note shall belong to who? The United States. Where do they put that? In the United States Code, Title 12, subsection 411. So where in that does it say you have to authenticate something? If I say, I owe you $200, are you going to go to the Secretary of State, authenticate a birth certificate, and then come to me saying, well, you said you owe me $200? Or are you going to come straight to me and say, you owe me $200? Right? So it's a diversion to get you to jump through hoops so you stop paying attention to the land at your feet. Now, when the United States was invading Cuba, right, pillaging their land, touching their children, right, raping them, did the Cubans authenticate a birth certificate or did they nationalize and say, get off my land?
They nationalized.
When the United States, the 13 European colonies, were fighting against Britain, did they authenticate birth certificates or did they say, hey, none of this?
We're a union, we are.
In fact, this is what they said. This is exactly what they said. And their Declaration of Independence. When in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another. Now, what is that political thing that connects us to the United States? The birth certificate. Does that say we authenticate political bonds? It says we dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another. Right? Because if that instrument, the birth certificate, was used to rob you, right, by your mind thinking it's real, how is it that you put a seal on it, now it makes it into something, when it was really your mind? Wouldn't that mean you need to change your mind? Right? Which that's why the prophet said, go back to that ancient mindset of your foremothers and forefathers. The land is ours. No birth certificate is going to prove otherwise. The Europeans call themselves colonies. Nothing's going to change that. In fact, in this letter, in this Declaration of Independence, the 13 colonies explain to the Crown of Britain that they're immigrants. Nothing's going to change that. So how can an immigrant have title to your land? Right? If we go to China, right, and we take their land, would the Chinese people say, give us our land back? Or would they take their land because it's theirs? Right? If you go to the lost and found because you lost your shoes at the store, are you going to go to the CEO and say, give me my hat back? Or are you going to go to the lost and found and take your stuff? Right? So all these abandoned properties out there, instead of, us teaching our people about adverse possession, how these Europeans do it all the time, why are we saying, oh, go ahead and waste your time and authenticate this birth certificate? That means nothing. Instead of unifying, creating a jural society, which means a competent group of people, going to City Hall and saying, that's abandoned, that's abandoned, that's abandoned. Oh yeah, by the way, that housing and urban development budget that you got from the federal government, go ahead and give us a part of that so we can fix up this estate. That's reparations. Why are we talking about that? Why are we talking about here? Go ahead and jump through hoops, get a seal on this paper, make it look nice, so you can tell a European judge on your land that you're the secure party creditor. What is that proving? Because if you're a secure party, if you're secure within yourself, you don't need to walk around saying, I'm secure. That's called overcompensating. Right? If you're good at what you do, you don't need to brag about it. If you're a secure party creditor, you don't need to brag about it. I'm secure in these books. You don't need to be bragging about how much books I made and how much books I sold. No, I'm good. You know what I'm saying? So if you're really a secure party creditor, what credit do you have? What reputation do you have? You're secured in what? You get it?
The credit is the land, your resources.
No. Credit is not land. Credit, look it up in the law book. Credit is your reputation. That's it. That is it. Your reputation. That's it. Actually, let's look it up. Just in case you think I'm lying. This is Black's Law Dictionary, 5th edition. It's very long. Credit. The ability of a person, of a business or person to borrow money or obtain goods on time in consequence of the favorable opinion held by the particular lender as to solvency and reliability. Time allowed to the buyer of goods by the seller in which to make payment for them. The correlative of a debt, that is, a debt considered from the creditor's standpoint, or that which is income or due to one. That which is due to a person, as distinguished from debt, that which is due by him. Claim or cause of action for specific sum of money. Credit means the right granted by a creditor to a debtor to defer payment of debt, or to incur debt and defer its payment. That's from the Uniform Consumer Credit Code, section 1.301, subsection 7. In accounting, as a noun, an entry on the right-hand side of an account. As a verb, to make an entry on the right-hand side of an account. Records increases in liabilities, owner's equity and revenues, and decreases in assets and expenses. In taxation, an amount that may be subtracted from the computed tax itself, in contrast to a deduction which is generally subtracted from gross income to arrive at adjusted gross income or taxable income. Questions? So let me just go back to the first sentence. The ability of a business or person to borrow money or obtain goods on time. Now, would you loan money to someone who has a bad reputation?
No.
Why? Because that's a liability, right? So what is credit based on? Your reputation. If word around town is when you let him borrow money and he don't pay you back, would you loan him money? Right? That's why defamation of character is a crime, because it's your reputation. So if you're a secure party creditor, what reputation are you secured in? And what are you a party to? Because if you claim to be a party to the birth certificate, well then you're agreeing to fraud. Because children, infants, and minors can't be parties to a contract, which as soon as that baby's born, it's devoured with that birth certificate, and that child's forced into that contract. So now you're claiming to be involved in human trafficking of babies. You sure you want to be a party to that? Isn't that exactly what it is? Don't they put it on infants as soon as they're born, the second they're born, right? How can an infant be a party to a contract? How? What's a contract? Let's look it up. It's on a few pages. Contract. An agreement between two or more persons which creates an obligation to do or not to do a particular thing. So when you get into that type of agreement with an infant, I'll read it again. A contract is an agreement between two or more persons which creates an obligation to do or not to do a particular thing. Its essentials are competent parties. Is an infant competent?
No.
An infant can't do anything, right?
Mm.
Except for cry, shit, and cry, and breathe. Subject matter, a legal consideration, which means money. Mutuality of agreement, can an infant agree to anything?
No.
And mutuality of obligation, does an infant owe any debts?
No.
So how can, so you're gonna claim to be a party to that? So you're agreeing, I'm a secure party creditor to this birth certificate. You're agreeing that you're involved in human trafficking, and you're involved in placing obligations on infants. That's what, what's the benefit in that? And that's an honest question. Because I'm trying to figure it out, but that doesn't make sense to me. Questions?
No. Someone online has been talking about their job not allowing her to, or they fired her after, this is for Q Fergie. They fired her after not providing social security numbers, and I just wanted her to know that she could sue for discrimination against her nationality.
Yeah,
And
let me get some more. I'll get some more information, please.
if you already worked there and you were trying to recontract with them, you can fill out a I want to say it's a W-4T. It's the termination of your previous signed W-4. And then, excuse me? Yes, W-4T. You were a new hire. So you can also show them that it's unconstitutional to place obligations on a contract because they can contract you independently. They're the ones who have to pay the taxes, but they push it on the employees to pay them individually. So, again, it would be putting an obligation on a contract, and you could sue them for that as well. And Jamal's going to provide some more information to back up what I'm saying.
Yeah. If you look up Title 42, so please write this down if you don't know it. Title 42 of the United States Code, subsection 408, number 8. It says, whoever discloses, uses, or compels the disclosure of the Social Security number of any person in violation of the laws of the United States shall be guilty of a felony, and upon conviction thereof shall be fined under Title 18 or imprisoned for not more than 5 years or both. So that's how you sue them. So you raise the federal question.
Correct, in
Like
federal
the
court.
Constitution, right? So you're raising the federal question, challenging the constitutionality of the act of you being fired for this reason. Is that lawful? The answer is no. Title 42. Get it?
Yes.
Because by you being a national, actually, this is something I wrote. So let me write this. Let me just read what I wrote.
You're
Because there was
welcome.
I'm going to this dispute with PayPal, and they're trying to force me, all of a sudden, right? They're trying to force me to submit a social security number and a photo ID, which when you go to PayPal, there's a drop down for national ID card. So I wrote them this letter saying that you have to accept my ID. So I'll just read the whole thing. So this is to PayPal Inc., and I read their legal stuff, so it said you have to put attention litigation department, and then I Googled PayPal CEOs, and I got this person named Luis Pentland, who is the Chief Business Affairs and Legal Officer. Notice of dispute. I put, I am Jamal Talib Abdullah Bey, my PayPal account is, that information. I reviewed the PayPal user agreement in legal terms listed on, and I put the link to their website. In said legal terms, it is mentioned that, in quote, all disputes or claims that have arisen or may arise between you and PayPal, including, without limitation, federal and state statutory claims upon, common law claims and those based in contract, tort, fraud, misrepresentation, or any other legal theory shall be resolved exclusively through final and binding arbitration. So they're trying to say you can't sue in federal court. You can't sue in an actual court. That's what they're saying. This is how they maintain their limited liability. Right? So you need no LLC registered with the state. No, you put it in the agreement. It is additionally stated that the governing law shall be, end quote, you agree that except to the extent inconsistent with or preempt by federal law, and except as otherwise stated in this user agreement, the laws of the state of Delaware, without regard to principles of conflict of law, will govern this user agreement and any claim or dispute that has arisen or may arise between you and PayPal. Unquote. The federal Constitution for the United States of America is part of the laws of the state of Delaware. See Article 6 of the federal Constitution, which says, this Constitution and all treaties made or which shall be made shall be the supreme law of the land, and the judges in every state shall be bound thereby. Anything in the Constitution or laws of any state to the contrary notwithstanding. Meaning anything that violates this notwithstanding. What's concluded from the information provided on your site is that federal laws are applicable to the user agreement between PayPal and its users, right? Therefore, a breach of the federal laws on your part is a breach of contract, right? That's what they said, right? Because they're saying that these laws govern this contract, right? And if anything be, what they say, if anything be inconsistent or preempted by federal law, then we can enforce it. That's what they said, right? That's what they said. Considering when I log into my PayPal with the above referenced email, I'm alerted with the following. Your account access is temporarily limited. We need you to take action on your account. Some features in your account will be limited until you perform certain tasks on your account. You'll be able to regain access to these features once you've completed these requirements. Unquote. Then I say I'm then prompted to upload a photo ID, provide proof of address, and to provide a social security number. I have uploaded a picture of my nationality card to your website consisting of my mailing location, address, photo, signature, and thumbprint. These requirements are acceptable according to the United States Codes, Title 18, subsection 1028, which says, the term Title 28, letter D3, which says the term identification document means a document made or issued by or under the authority of a foreign government, which we're foreign to them, an international government, which we're a national government, so once we speak to them, it becomes international, meaning amongst nations, which, when completed with information concerning a particular individual, is a type intended or commonly accepted for the purpose of identification. So according to federal law, I fall within these requirements based on my nationality card, so you can't even reject it. That's what I'm telling them. Since you say the governing law is federal law, right? That's what they said. I therefore assert my right and claim that you must accept my form of national identification as valid, lest your requirements be a breach of contract and inconsistent with or preempt by federal law. So I use their words against them. Because that's what they said. Right? Don't they, when they arrest us, say everything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law? So why are we doing it to them?
Mm-hmm.
Right? If my nationality card is not accepted as valid, then you are in breach of contract and the arbitration clause is null and void, allowing me to assert my right to file a claim in federal court for discrimination against my national origin. So since you're breaking the contract, that means arbitration doesn't apply either. Keep playing dumb. That's what they said, right?
Mm-hmm.
My additional dispute is with providing a social security number. Oh, then I said, see Peoples versus City of Detroit, which is in the United States Court of Appeals. And Peoples versus City of Detroit, there was 11 so-called minority firefighters, which minority means incompetent. Most of them were suing based on racial discrimination. The guy Peoples, Rivera, was suing for national discrimination. So in this federal court, they said only the person claiming discrimination against national origin had standing status in law to sue. So since I said I'm a Moorish national and we're not required to have this, if you don't accept this user agreement, then you're discriminating against my national origin.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Then I put my additional disputes with providing a social security number, which I added that Title 14 Code 408, which says discloses, uses, or compels the disclosure of social security number, blah, 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 blah. Then I put requiring or otherwise demanding or denying me a service or my right to contract based on my right to refuse to submit a social security number is violation of Article 1, Section 10 of the United States Constitution by placing an obligation on the contract, which would be the PayPal user agreement, as well as violating my human rights and contractual right to association, which when you read the first Bill of Rights, you have the right to association, right? To peaceful gatherings, that's association. Then when you read the United Nations Declaration on Human Rights, it says no one shall be forced or compelled to belong to an association, right? As well as violating my human and constitutional rights to association. Being a Moorish national, I am not required to associate nor contract with the Social Security Administration, nor am I required by law to have, apply for, produce, nor submit a Social Security number for any of my contractual agreements. Then I put citizenship, AA, United States Code, Title 22, foreign relations and intercourse of a general and permanent character, 141. So that's A22141. A222141.
That's
on
our.
nationality cards.
Mhm.
Which AA means the highest level of citizenship, which means I was born here. My people were here way before the United States got here. So who are you to tell me what to do?
Does that include like Caribbean folk as well?
Like what?
Caribbean.
Yeah.
They're Americans.
We're all Americans. They just took us out of this continent.
So let me read this real quick, since you asked that question. Where are you from?
Haiti.
Where's Haiti located?
Haiti's in the Caribbean.
Where's the Caribbean located?
On this side of the continent.
It's part of America.
Part of America.
So that makes you what? American. The word American is a form of what? Al-Moroccan. Al-Moroccan is a long form of what? Moor. So you just extra steps away from the word Moor. Still a Moor. All right, and this is what the prophet said. This is dominion, the dominion of Africa. The inhabitants of Africa are the descendants of the ancient Canaanites from the land of Canaan. Old man Cush and his family were the first inhabitants of Africa, who came from the land of Canaan. His father Ham and his family were second. Then came the word Ethiopia, which means the demarcation line of the dominion of Amexem, the first true and divine name of Africa. So now the prophet just said the first true and divine name of Africa is Amexem. All right, so please revert your attention to the board. I'm going to show you how you're an American. Not by me just saying, you know, Haiti's part of America. I'm going to prove it to you. The prophet, this guy, said the true and divine name of Africa is Amexem.
Excuse me.
Right? That's what the prophet said. Any questions? Now, most archaeologists, right, all these scientists, all these people that dig up stuff, right, they'll tell you the oldest civilization in America is the Olmecs, right? The Olmecs, right? Old Mech. Old Amexem. The people of Old Amexem. So, the word Al-Moroccan is a transliterated version of American. From Old Mech, or the people of Old Mexum, we see how you get the word Mexican, right? The root word of American, Moroccan, Moor, Mexico is M-E. We know vowels are interchangeable. A-E-I-O-U are all interchangeable, right? Which means water. All of that means water. Which in the Phoenician alphabet, this is the symbol for M. What does that look like right there? Water. In Cherokee, this is how you say water. Ama. Right? Then there's an ancient African parable that says what? From the raging water of Nun, N-U-N-M-O-M, came Atum, right? Who gave name to all things in the universe. Now, when you're born, what happens before you're born? What happens to your mother's water?
It breaks.
That's that rushing water, right?
Mm.
That's that raging water, right? Right. Then, in the one-on-ones, the prophet said, what's the ancient name for Moor? And they tell you what? Moabite, right? Or Moab. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Water, right? Right? Ab is what? Latin. It means what? From. So where are you from? From the water. Get it? You sure? And then when you do research on who you are, you see that the Moors are ancient sea-fretting people. And then when you do more research, you'll see that the Moors control the Mediterranean. Now what does Mediterranean mean? Meta, middle, Terranean, earth. Now what's between here and Africa? Water. What do they call that? The Middle Passage. What are you passing over? Water. Who did the Europeans get into contracts to in order to pass or deal with the Mediterranean?
The Moors.
The Moors. You see how you're Moorish? Yeah.
So you're saying, or not you in particular.
I'm not saying anything.
Not you in particular. So
Yeah.
all of North America, meaning Alaska, Canada, and then what we call USA, North America, Central America, the adjoining islands, South America, and all of Africa, that's considered Africa.
Yeah. Now, since you said Alaska, they used to call the West Maghreb Al-Aska,
Maghreb, Alaska.
which means Morocco, the extreme west. Now, where's Alaska on the map?
The
The furthest west. So continue what the prophet said. The prophet told you who he was. And then when you do research on the Olmecs, they got fezzes like this, and it's wrapped in a turban. So the prophet said the true and divine name of Africa is Amexem, right? The dominion of Cush, northeast and southeast Africa, and northwest and southwest was his father's dominion of Africa. In the later years, many of their brethren from Asia and the Holy Land joined them. The Moabites from the land of Moab, who received permission from the pharaohs of Egypt to settle and inhabit northwest Africa. They were the founders and are the true possessors of the present Moroccan Empire. Did I say old? Did I say past? No. Present Moroccan Empire. With their Canaanite, Hittite, and Amorite brethren who sojourned from the land of Canaan. Their dominion in habitation extends from northeast and southwest Africa across the great Atlantis, Middle Passage, Mediterranean, even onto the present North, South, and Central America, and also Mexico, and the Atlantis Islands, so-called Caribbean, before the great earthquake that caused the Great Atlantic Ocean. Then when you do research on the University of Florida, there's a European professor who talks about Pangea and how the lands used to be connected. There you go. Yes, that's question.
So whomever is saying, let's go back, the cross-Atlantic slave trade, let's go back to Africa, we are in.
You're already on Africa.
So we're not trying to split our because we're not trying to split ourselves and stay there.
Yeah, no, this is where we're from.
We're just visiting, we're
part of our land. That's it.
We going down south, we going far east. To
That's
visit
it.
somewhere family.
That's it.
Not-
We'll visit our cousins. That's it. Well, this is our land. That's why they have us thinking over there. So in the mind, we abandon it, so they have right to be here, since it's abandoned. Says, y'all think y'all from over there? All right, we'll be here chilling. And what is Europeans doing? They're here chilling.
You're chilling.
All right, so continuing. Therefore, refusal to allow me to regain access into the account that I have opened with you, based on my rights as a Moorish national, is discrimination against me because of my national origin and a breach of contract. Respectfully, I ask for all access back into the account for complying with the provisions set forth to establish my identity by submitting my nationality card. The provisions stated in the identity authentication in the PayPal user agreement notwithstanding, pursuant to the laws of the United States and the Constitution for the United States of America, failure to allow me access will result in a lawsuit for 1, breach of contract, 2, deprivation of rights under color of law, 3, discrimination against my national origin, 4, violation of my constitutionally secured rights, 5, treaty violations, the Moroccan Treaty with the United States, 1787, Article 17, which states we have the right to buy and sell at free will, which means contract. So that would be that's how you can sue these people. Any questions? You see how authenticating the birth certificate means nothing? Because the universe is what? Mental? So anything outside of you is subsidiary, it's secondary. You are the thing. You are God. You make claim to the land, not a piece of paper. Because we can't say that these Europeans own the land, right? And we go out in the city of Providence and see thousands of abandoned houses. So why are we going to authenticate some birth certificate when it's abandoned? Right? Right? Why would we do that? Because according to Rhode Island general laws, in this case in 2011, if the Moors really want their land back, if the Aboriginal indigenous people really want their land back and to be secure party creditors as it relates to the estate, hold title to the estate, why don't they do an adverse possession? That's probably because some of these Moors out here are saying, you get that from the redemption manuals and that's made up stuff. And we're supposed to be law abiders. Well, this is Rhode Island general law, so you agree to this, right? So this is from the Superior Court of Rhode Island. Case number KC, Kilo Charlie, 09-968. This was filed in 2011, so this is ancient. Is this ancient?
No.
That's 2011, right? Before this court is a non-jury trial regarding a matter brought by plaintiff Joyce DePippo against record owner of land, Lewis and Rebecca Sperling, to establish title by adverse possession. Wait, hold on, did I hear it right? I think that said authentication of a birth certificate, did I? Let me read that one more time. This is from the Superior Court of Rhode Island. State of Rhode Island and Providence Plantations. You see that, right?
Do you want to bring it up
Plantation
over
just
here?
means to plant. It just means land. It don't mean, don't think slave, don't think none of that. It means to plant. This says Superior Court, right? So this is Superior Court.
Yeah.
Not District Court, not 6th District, not Traffic Court. Their Superior Court, right? So that's a pretty high court, right? So this ain't just my opinion, right? Cool. That says July 8, 2011, right? That don't say ancient knowledge. This is secret under the Vatican vaults, right? That says 2011, Rhode Island, right? Case number KC09968. Does that say redemption manual? Does that say European redemption manual? No? This says, before this court is a non-jury trial regarding a matter brought by plaintiff Joyce DePippo, herein called the plaintiff, against record owner of land, Lewis and Rebecca Sperling, herein defendants, to establish title by adverse possession pursuant to Rhode Island General Laws, Title 34, Chapter 7, Subsection 1. Does that say redemption manual? Or does that say Rhode Island General Laws? Which one does it say? Now, I'm acting like this for a reason. Because these idiots will lie to our people saying, that's that European redemption manual stuff. Because they're trying to cause fear in your minds so you don't claim your estate. That's, right? And the prophet said for us to be law abiders, right? Well, don't that say Rhode Island general law, right there? R.I. gen law, right? Don't they recognize establishing title by adverse possession, right? Isn't that what they just said? Right? Doesn't the rights of indigenous people say we have the right to our land and resources back? By whatever means necessary? Right? Wouldn't that be adverse possession, right?
Yes, sir.
Does that say authenticated birth certificate? So why are we wasting our time?
You see all those videos all over the place. You putting so much energy.
Because they're selling people promises and dreams. That's what they're doing. If you authenticate this, give me $500, then you get access to this limited account.
For like real information, and it's just having people all over the place. I remember when I just started receiving this information and learning and watching videos, I waste a lot of time on like a lot of people that makes no sense. Like, and then you put so much time and energy into it just to know that at the end the rabbit hole is there's no light.
Yeah.
It's just another money. Just lower self. Nothing good. No.
So they say, if you authenticate this birth certificate like I did, right?
Like, yeah.
You can discharge this debt, right, and get access to this unlimited amount of money.
And then
But give me $500.
They're not showing you how to get it done.
Don't even go there yet. Hold that for later. They didn't even show you how to get it done. But they say, give me $500. If they got access to that money, why are they asking you for anything?
Exactly.
Right, so that's for the Moors that promote authenticate this. And then for the Moors saying, well, we get this from the redemption manuals, and this is all European stuff, and the prophet said we're supposed to be good law abiders. Well, this says Rhode Island general law, how can they talk about adverse possession? Why do they talk about paying a mortgage? When the mortgage ain't even creating title to an estate, but this creates title.
This is your team that
Yeah.
discharged their debt.
No, they claim land
Oh, the thing.
via adverse
Adverse.
possession. Yeah. No, it wasn't through the court process, it ended up being litigated through the court process. Because that's the common law.
So your team could do that.
Anyone can do it.
Anyone could do that on their own.
Right? At the lost and found, isn't that all abandoned?
That's what Gina Miranda did.
Right? Hold on, let me pick this scenario. At the lost and found, isn't everything considered abandoned until it's claimed?
To this claim,
So it's an adverse possession, you're taking it.
yeah. Lost and found.
So if there's a house out there that's just abandoned, it's lost. No one's claiming it. So to claim it would be an adverse possession. That's common law. That's common sense. If you see a laptop on the ground, you need a laptop, and no one's claiming it. Right? And you walk away, you come back 30 days, and it's still abandoned. Let me go ahead and administrate that until the real owners come. If they don't come, then you own it.
There's a time like that.
Now, this is where Moore's going to comprehend the difference between statutory law and common law. In their statutes, the people of Rhode Island agreed, I think, 10 years? Yeah, 10 years. Right. But since this is our land, their statutes don't affect us. Only the common law does. Get it?
So, say someone goes to school and they have debt. Is the debt already paid?
Of course it is. Write this down. Title 12. Find something. Get a tattoo on it.
Yeah.
And this is basically what we went over last class, too.
Newspaper.
Title 12. Excuse me. Oh yeah, additionally, in this case, they cite other case law which supports the right to adverse possession. So feel free to pass this around. So it's Title 12 of the United States Codes, subsection 411. The United States Codes, it is stated that all obligations, the word obligation means debt, of the Federal Reserve note, that paper that we have in our wallet, belongs to the United States. Did I say you? Did I say me? No, it says who? The United States. So it's all, everything's already paid for. Yes.
Where is the more science symbol over here? 'Cause right now? Is it in Chicago or New Jersey?
Yeah, the head office is supposed to be in Chicago.
But they're national.
Yes. Now, the difference between not being a national is you not knowing.
Hmm.
That's the difference. Because when you nationalize, it happens in your mind. When you look at the definition of nationality, it's that quality or character, those nouns?
No.
No. That quality or character which derives from one being part of a nation, meaning how you carry yourself, how you act, the way you treat your women, your laws, your customs, your heritage. That's what nationality is. That knowledge determines your what? Political status. Meaning what? You're standing at law, especially with reference to your land. So it's your mental competence. Period. What you know. Period. Not what someone's telling you. Not what you think you know. What you know. Period.
All those dirty Moors in Chicago and New Jersey who know this stuff, who have people who come to their temples, they could have, they're all nationals, so they could have
Been
did
in
adverse possession, because a lot of these people, they have homes, they have apartments.
Now,
Why not do that, the people who are running these temples?
the prophet already did it.
Hi, Empress.
If you do research, there's an article online about this woman in Chicago who she looked up the title to her house, and it was owned by the Moorish Science Temple of America. And remember, when you do research on what the prophet, on his literature, in one of his statements, he said, if you're gonna do anything, do it under the name Moorish Science Temple of America or Noble Drew Ali. And then he says he came to basically save the nation, so let him know what's on him. Right? Because a nonprofit organization, which is nonprofit, can own things for the community. Hence, Rhode Island Housing Department, which they're a nonprofit organization, and then when you read up their charter, it says quasi-public, which means what? Fake public? Right? And then when you actually study the Moorish Science Temple of America, the Moorish Science Temple of America is a jural society. Period. It's not some special, this elite organization. It has its credibility through the acts, works, and deeds of Prophet Noble Drew Ali. Period. That's why people are claiming, be part of the temple and get the real knowledge. Because they're reaping, they're basing it off of his credibility. And the credibility associated with the name Moorish Science Temple of America. But when you read his, write this down please, if you don't know. A divine warning by the prophet for the nations. If you read that, the man himself said, the salvation is through the Moorish divine and national movement. But these dirty bastards would say, it's through the Moorish Science Temple of America. Why? Because they're trying to steal his credibility. They're trying to take the energy of our people and just use it for themselves. Because they have no credibility of their own. Because they have no merit of their own. Because they never produced anything of their own.
So at the end of the day, those people who have homes, apartments, they need to have their home under a allodial title, which means that they're theirs under the national rights to own property. So for 100+ years, these people were in the temple just
Had this
doing
information.
this and doing this, not doing anything for us, the nationals of the land. So basically, we should be put
Get him,
to
Ellie.
task and just like
Well,
put to the side.
honestly, in my opinion, the Moors need to take responsibility. Because what I see is, and I was like this too, I was looking for a charter from the temple to grant me some type of holy moly authority to do something. When my mother did that, and your mother did that, and your mother did that, and your mother, and your mother, and your mother, and your mother, and your mother. And then when you read the Declaration on Human Rights, it says we have the right to participate in the government of our own homeland. So we don't necessarily need a charter from this.
Yeah, we don't do that.
We're indigenous people, period.
I wasn't asking for permission.
No, I know, I'm just clarifying. Because I was that way too. We need to go to the temple. We need to go to the temple. No. It's a jural society. So if the Moors in their area were serious, they would organize as a non-profit organization like the Prophet did, go to City Hall, tap into that HUD fund, and get those allocated finances to increase our economic security as a people. Not go to a temple, bow and pray, and have them confer nationality. No one can grant you your nationality. You were born the way you are. Your nationality is your bloodline. Who gave that to you in her womb? Your mother. So how can some male outside of your mother give you your nationality when your nationality is your bloodline? Then they say, once you declare your nationality, don't stop there. You need to be part of a temple so that the state can confer you citizenship. What's a citizen? A person who's actively involved in their society, period. Don't listen to these people. Don't even listen to me. Look up everything I'm saying.
Not the right to travel, the right to own a home or apartments, the place that you sleep every day. You spend most of your time sleeping or at a dwelling. So why not
Own that.
and then the next step is we're going to be traveling to do commerce. That's the next step. Smaller steps to within that is going to allow us to do many things. But let's start with the place we dwell, our homes, our apartments. Let's get that under a local title.
So we would have to start with local government in order to do that, right?
Correct.
Where's local government? City Hall. What did the prophet, who was the prophet sit next to? And this is like a picture, this picture's online, where the prophet's in the middle, and to his left was Lewis Anderson, who was an alderman or city councilman representing the Moors in Chicago. And to his right was Oscar DePriest, who was what? A congressman representing the Moors in Congress, dealing with the rights of indigenous people, which says the states have to consult and cooperate in conjunction with the elected representatives of the indigenous people on their land. Not us being part of their stuff. It's you're recognizing me on my land. You have no say in that. That's why you see in the newspaper, the prophet said, Moors elect Anderson to represent you. He wasn't running in no European race. You get that? We're a distinct, separate, and distinct people, not one and the same. Get it? Politically, that means something. Nationally, that means something. It's not a feeling. It means something. Right? You can't vote a European into office and have him represent you. How? He doesn't reflect you emotionally. He doesn't reflect you religiously. He doesn't reflect you politically. He doesn't reflect you socially. Was he growing up in the projects with you? No. Was he struggling with your family eating ramen noodles? No. So how can he represent you? Right? How?
Especially for the constables on patrol.
And their cops are killing us in the street, so you're saying they represent you? Right? That's where that legal trickery comes into play, where they said that that 14th Amendment citizen, that birth certificate name, became a citizen via the 14th Amendment. That's how they're playing you. And then they're going to say, authenticate that. Then they're going to say, yeah, go to them. This ain't even their land. What are you going to them for? That's like me going into your mom's house, right? And she ain't home, she's at work. And you see me sitting on your couch. Hey, give me a beer. You gonna give me a beer? Hell no. Any questions?
Beer ain't gonna get itself.
Any questions? Done?
Keep bringing the smoke.
Yes, I do have a question. So, I was watching, I think it was Sharon's class, just even, and they were leaving the straw dancing.
So now,
So,
let me explain that. All right. You know, in law, there's a difference. There's two types of person, right?
yes.
Natural and artificial. Right?
Yeah.
Artificial means what? Fake, right? The strong man is a fake person, right? Now, is Santa Claus real or fake?
Fake.
Okay. What is a lien? I'm going to just explain. A lien is claiming interest in real property. Real property. For the satisfaction of a debt. Right? So can you lien Santa Claus a slave? Why? Because it's fake. So can you lien a straw man?
No,
Why?
it's fake.
Any questions?
Can deem the person, their property, the person who owns the utility, the strongman, but not the strongman itself.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Are we sure?
Are
we sure? Are we sure?
Yes.
Because Abdullah El Talib Mosey Bey had to join the conference call with them and explain to them that you can't do that. And he's not even part of the consulate, which I've been telling them that. But, you know, anyway.
If I had an issue with you, let's say you stolen some of my effects, my items, and I want to lien you specifically via your organization called Rise of the Moors, I would put you, Jamal, to leave a little day, and your partner, who is part of the council or the members of this organization, Rise of the Moors, I would lien 1 and 2. If there's a third person, I will lien them.
Yeah.
That's how you lien them.
Because
the personal effects.
Because the corporation can't do anything.
Yeah.
The corporation is a reflection of the people who it represents.
And it's
Or who created it, excuse me.
Official body.
Yeah.
plus it's a non-for-profit, so if you're not profiting from whatever, so I'm gonna leave
So I ain't gonna sue.
non-for-profit.
What are you gonna get?
So I'm gonna sue the person,
Yeah.
not the LLC.
So now, leaning a strong man, all right, that's like a cop punches you in the face, BOW!
Yeah.
All right? Are you gonna sue him, or are you gonna sue a piece of paper? Any questions on that?
So yeah, straight up. I understand now.
Sue him, and then the person, he's.
He works
how he
for,
works
for,
for-
which would be the chief of police,
Yep.
and then the chief of police is under who? The mayor.
And then,
So all of them are responsible, the so-called cop who did the injury, his supervisor, and then his supervisor, which would be the mayor. The mayor, chief of police, and then the police come in. That's who you sue, not a straw man. Because a straw man can't do nothing. When you go out to the field and see a scarecrow, he ain't doing nothing. Right? Straw man. What are scarecrows made of? Straw. What do they do? Nothing. Actually, some birds be sitting on scarecrows.
Do you mean the ones that? I said, you mean the ones that?
Yeah, they ain't doing nothing either. You're just jumping through hoops. The instrument is void ab initio. If something's void, how are you making it non-voidable? It's void from the beginning. One, a minor can't be part of a contract. That makes the contract void. Two, it's an artificial person. You can't lien Santa Claus slave because it ain't real, and Santa Claus ain't real. Three, there's no debt.
Are you sure?
So how they paying you if there's nothing to pay with? And how do you claim that you have an interest in it when it ain't even yours? And it didn't do anything to you. Because it can't. It's a scapegoat. Get it? Scapegoat. Just like the devil.
Jedi mind tricks.
Just like these aliens about to come out of space and abduct us. Scapegoat. Just like Bigfoot. Scapegoat. The Loch Ness Monster. Scapegoat.
Black man, scapegoat.
Just like back in the day when they killed the goat and put the blood on the door so the Pharaoh wouldn't come kill your children.
Mm.
God was coming, so God said, put blood on the door.
So you wouldn't take your firstborn?
Literally, scapegoat. What did they kill? Goats. Blamed it on the devil. And who's doing it? Men and women. Who killed Jesus? Rome. Who they say did it? The devil.
The Jews.
No, the Jews didn't. Remember
No, they said the Jews did it. I know.
Remember we was watching the Borgias on
Yeah.
Netflix.
Yeah.
Right? And they were talking about how, and there was the, I think it was the so-called Jew, right?
Yep.
He was saying, didn't the Jews
Right. Didn't the Jews kill Jesus?
And the Pope,
Said, I thought it was
Was
the
like-
Romans.
was it?
Yeah.
I thought it was the Romans. Because they did.
Yeah. Said
And they be telling you the truth on TV, but you think, oh, this is a movie, this ain't real. Just like when they showed you in the Matrix that everything was fake.
Mhm.
Oh, no, this is a movie, this ain't real.
I got that.
You know, I still haven't watched that movie.
What?
Get out.
It's on Netflix.
No, honestly, I still haven't watched it.
You need to watch that movie.
There's so much different.
You should watch it.
People talking about it, going at it for hours. You should have watched it.
You should.
Yeah. The other ones suck, but the first one is good.
The author was supposed to be an Aboriginal woman.
That's why I heard.
Morpheus.
Yes.
Mhm.
Morpheus. Zion.
Yes.
Morpheus.
Yes.
They kept calling him
And they're still-
Mr.
still
Anderson
on
and
that.
not Neo, his free national name.
I still haven't watched it. I'm gonna get there.
Do it.
That all caps names, Mr. Anderson. When the free people called him Neo,
Mhm.
free national name.
I'm gonna have to watch it. And when I hear so much stories about it, it feels like I watched it.
You have to watch it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they have like side stories as well on the side that actually open up and make expand.
Same thing with Finding Nemo.
Oh yeah.
Finding Nemo's about more science.
His free national name.
Nemo. Yeah, look up the word Nemo means no one.
Yeah.
Right? Then what happened? The Moorish idolfish said, your name is Sharkbait.
Oh wow.
Free national name.
Okay.
The Moorish
Shark bait. Ooh
idolfish.
haha.
You know that fish with the scar on his face?
Mhm.
That's called a Moorish idolfish.
Yes, yeah, that I know.
They went through the whole ceremony, name change.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the black, yellow, and white striped fish. Yeah.
Oh, and
After Nemo's trials and tribulations in the tank, he got his free national name. After he was tried and true, that's free national name.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Then he was found. Found yourself. Find Nemo. More signs right in your face. Shark bait. Hoo-ha.
Mount Wanahakalugi.
Wanahakalugi, right?
Someone said that they wish you were in New York. Do you want to talk a little bit about your event that's coming
I'll
up
be in New York.
in July 22nd?
No,
Oh, excuse me.
12 to the 14th.
There we go. 12th to the 14th. He'll be in Long Island, New York. What is the event called?
The wake up call.
Yes, the Wake Up Call. There's a lot of different other people on the panel.
Dr. Umar Johnson's gonna be here.
Dr. Umar
Reza
Johnson, Reza Islam.
Red pill and blue pill's gonna be there,
Hmm.
and other people who I can't remember their names are gonna be there.
So this is a so-called black event, and he's going to break up, not really break up the party, but you know, tell you you're not black
25. Oh yeah, there's a fee of 25 notes.
for the event.
Any other questions?
Yeah, get rid of that black thing.
So, my car payment's already fully paid for?
Yeah.
Hmm.
They send you statements of an account.
So, if I got a new car, do I have to make a payment?
But, hold on. When you got that car, whose name did you use? Did you?
Well, I had a cosigner.
But was it your name? You sure?
Proper stuff.
Do you have a so-called birth certificate?
No
Did you
events
use
there
the name
as
on
of
that
yet.
Yo.
On the documents associated with that car and that name, is that name in all capital letters?
Yes.
When they send you bills in the mail, is that name in all capital letters?
Hmm.
Then it ain't you. It's that transmitting utility where they're transmitting the debt on you. They're using your physical body, just like in the Matrix where Morpheus said they see you as this battery.
Yep.
They're using your energy for them. Right. Let me put this on the board so it's easier to understand and easier to comprehend. Taj Tariq Bey did a video talking about feedback loops. The birth certificate and all these so-called debts in the Federal Reserve notes, they're all feedback loops, right? The U.S, right, prints the Federal Reserve notes, which we keep calling money and it's not money, right?
Hmm.
All businesses, oops. with the states. So collectively, the U.S. and use FRNs, right? Which means they're all in cahoots with this, which it ain't money, right? So let's say you got a loan from a bank, right? Who's contracted with the United States, right? You, right? In order to pay them back, you have to work for another business that works for these people. Right, that's a business. To get this.
Federal Reserve Notes.
So now your energy's doing this. Which means who owns you? Them. Right? So if I print Jamal dollars, right? And he also is doing business only accepting Jamal dollars.
Yeah.
Now I got a monopoly on his business. Right? And let's say this room is a state. Let's say this is Rhode Island, this room. Right? You're doing business over there, and I'm the government. Right? You're doing business in so-called Warwick, you're in Providence, you're in Cranston, you're in Pawtucket. All of your businesses only accept Jamal dollars. Listen, brother, if you make it so all your customers only, pay in Jamal dollars, I'll make it so you're a very rich man because I can print it at will. And his store's gonna accept it too, so you can get your groceries. And his store's gonna accept it too, so you can do your laundry. And I'll just print more and just give it to you. Just make sure they pay you it. So that means, in order for them to get it, they have to come through me. And they pay you. Get it?
And then we can confirm the contract with them.
And then we just privately contract. We discharge all this so-called debt in Jamal dollars because it ain't real. And since they don't know, they work for all of us. You, me. And now we're just creating a monopoly over these people because they don't know.
Yeah, that's not true.
Because if your job, right, if you provide these people with work and you pay them in Jamal dollars, and they owe him, who's also my boy, and he's saying you gotta pay me in Jamal dollars, then who do they work for? Jamal! So if they create a monopoly over the entire country and say you can only work for and pay with Federal Reserve notes and we can print them whenever we want, then who owns you? But dealing with the laws of equity, fairness, and trust law, since they're administrating all this, they take on all the debts associated therewith. Hence, Title 12, subsection 411, dealing with the Federal Reserve Act of 1913 and the Federal Reserve Act of 1933, where they took all the gold, so they took everyone's equitable opportunity to pay in anything, and they said, since you're my boy, you're my boy, you're my boy, we're going to create a monopoly. By law, they had to discharge everything, because they can just print it at will. Is that clear?
Mm-hmm.
Are we sure?
Mm-hmm.
It's a loop. It's perpetual. As long as we're using it and working for it, they control us because they print it. Right? If you live on a land that you can't grow anything
so
on.
they always got notes.
Yeah.
They're printing it.
At will.
That's
Right?
why he does not.
If you live on farmland that's barren, you can't grow nothing. And I'm the only person with farmland in your immediate vicinity. You can't go nowhere else. And I'm growing apples out the Yahoo. And I know you need apples. Oh, you want these apples, huh? All right, come work for me. That simple. Oh, you want to pay off your mortgage? Oh, you want to pay off your car note? You want to pay off your student loans? Well, you can only use Federal Reserve notes, and I'm the only one who prints them. So you got to work for me. That's how it works. Just with a multiplicity of people.
Yep.
But it's this right here.
Purchase power.
It's a pyramid scheme. And then when you look at the color of the so-called money, Google Federal Reserve notes and monopoly money. Do it.
How much of the purchasing power did it lose?
96% of its purchasing power. So go on your phones right now,
He said,
Google monopoly money and USD. The same exact colors. And what was the game Monopoly about? Controlling everything, right?
Mhm.
In U
Yeah, so Google Monopoly money and USD.
and USD, okay.
And go to images.
Someone asked, there were multiple videos of this. This question, or this answer is going to be for Heru Manturael. They want to know what video it was that you pulled out several certified documents from the Library of Congress. I believe that was 2 classes ago when you were talking about the Dred Scott and the 14th Amendment.
Yeah.
What class was that called?
See this, right? I think it's called Dred Scott. See that, right?
Okay.
Is that the same color?
Mm-hmm.
What's the difference?
Same, yeah. Makes sense.
The same color.
Yeah. The same
You want to show
color.
the?
Fancy dollars.
Weird, it's like that.
I always thought it was that way in general. Just everybody was on a silver color.
So are they hiding this? You
Mm-mm.
put it right in your face, right? All
Never
these
hide
colorful
nothing.
colors.
Never hide nothing.
Right? Right in your face. And then not only that, but like you said, the purchasing power of the Federal Reserve note lost 96% of its power. And who said that?
Library of
A
Congress.
congressman. What was his name? Alexander Mooney of West Virginia. He said that March 22nd, 2018.
Did they kick him out of office?
I'm still there. They all know.
We don't know, so it's crazy. They can't
And what did they
kick
say
him.
recently about the Fair Tax Act of 2019? The IRS destroys
That's him?
families, right? Yeah, that's him. The IRS destroys families, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then these authenticate birth certificate people will say, yeah, get an EIN from the IRS. Get an ITIN from the IRS. But the congressman is saying they're destroying their families.
I'm
What do
sure
you do?
if they wrote like a note on there, like what Pal said, we're destroying families, you'll be like, okay, yes.
Mhm.
And then continue about the day, just say,
Yeah, they'll think it's a joke. Any other questions? Yeah.
Girlfriend's having a kid, where do I go?
Well, first of all, your girlfriend is not having a kid. The kid's a baby goat.
But
Look up the definition of kid, it'll say a baby goat. She's giving, or she's begetting a child. So the word born, which is dealing with birth certificate, is not the same as begotten. The word beget or begotten means to be procreated. There's only one way to be procreated. One. It's not through the creation of a piece of paper.
artificial and natural.
So only natural beings can beget other natural beings. And only natural beings can create artificial beings. An artificial being cannot create another artificial being. So, I would personally recommend you not going to a so-called hospital because you're just giving your child to Rome. But I know that some of us are, either afraid or we don't know how to give, we don't know how to be an Abdullah to our children, or be a doula. Abdullah, same thing, servant of Allah. So you can, if you so choose, go to an hospital and refuse to sign the birth certificate. You have the right to do that. But you have to know that, not because Jamal told you, you have to know that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sign this.
No, thank you.
All right, there you go.
And be aware, they'll try to get your girl to sign it as well.
Yeah.
Because during the pain, they take advantage of that moment as well.
Okay.
Just like I said in Revelation, they're waiting to devour the baby. That's what they're doing.
Listen to someone say that you should just, in that case, like write your family the Bible and just record it in there at
Yeah.
the time, in the presence of.
So you can, log your baby's
Yeah.
time, so they can do
and
this.
all that.
The astrology to who they are, figure out who they are, and live their life accordingly.
Let's get this straight. I don't have a girlfriend. Let's like.
All right.
That's good.
Hypothetical.
Hmm.
You sure you won't have a baby coming?
Speak it into existence.
No, it's good to be prepared then, because there's been more that call me, like, I just had a baby, what do I do? Like, I'm not there, so I can't help you.
Mm.
Any other questions? Alright, so if you don't know, write this down. HR, it means House Resolution, that's what it means. HR 5404. Representative Alexander Mooney, Mooney, Money, Mooney, Mooney. A bill to define the dollar and a fixed weight of gold. Proving to you that this, this paper that we have in our wallet has no value. Additionally, write down House Resolution or H.R.25. The Fair Tax Act of 2019. January 3rd, 2019. And you will see within the first probably 2 paragraphs, 2, 3, let's say two or three sections of that bill, where the congressman, not some conspiracy theorist, not some so-called sovereign citizen, not some temple moor, the United States congressman exposed how damaging the IRS really is.
And that's HR
25. And you can find all this information from congress.gov, not jamal.com, not riseofthemoors.org, congress.gov. Yes.
And a good way to kind of visualize the sort of business structures of the country or the North America, all the 50 states, just think of the names and think of them as corporations, like let's say Coca-Cola, $1 billion company, Walmart, $1 billion company, Kodak, $1 billion company. All those 50 states are the leading controllers of the rest of the body, meaning the people, the individuals. So let's say Rhode Island is the state, and then all the companies within the Rhode Island will pay taxes to Rhode Island. This is the leading head of the corporation. Then you feed all the corporations, feed their taxes to them, and then the individuals like ourselves that work in jobs, and we pay our portion of our taxes to the corporation. So it's like a funneling system from the smallest person that works as an employee to a private contractor or a state person. Everything is funneled through the smallest to the biggest state, and then in a conglomerate, the whole United States pay all their taxes to, let's say,
The Pope.
the Pope, right there. Who is the head, the CEO.
That's unum sanctum.
Yeah.
So they don't pay the taxes to England anymore, or the?
No, yeah, they still do.
Yeah,
Because it's like it's the
multiple
trilateral commission.
multiple
There's
owners.
the Pope, England, and then there's the United States.
The board of directors are England and Pope and all those people, the head of.
That's why in
corporations.
Washington you see the 3 stars. That's what that represents.
Okay.
And then on their license plate it says taxation without representation, which is contrary to the whole entire Declaration of Independence.
You could reverse engineer that at any time and build that into a positive way.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I talked about that in my second book, how the system that they've created can be used for our benefit. It's just, it's not.
Mm.
That's simple.
Just adding on debt.
Well, it's adding economic pressure to our families so that they have a better quality of life, because we're busy swinging at ghosts and leaning fake men and Santa Claus as slave, right? Because we're busy doing that and killing each other, right? And we're oh, the European said something, we're gonna believe that. That's where our time and energy is spent on. Cardi B, drinking,
Yep.
selling drugs to each other. That's what we're doing with our time.
I see.
So it's not just the European, it's what we're doing.
Yeah, I'm aware of that as well.
You know what I'm saying? So don't just think, oh, European's a bad guy and that's it, he's evil. European so-called white man's the devil. No, we're the devil too. Because these so-called black leaders, these so-called Indian chiefs, who we see every day, they know all of this.
Mm-hmm.
How do you know that, Jamal? Well, I got invited to a Chiefs meeting. Not only that, but I had several meetings with some of these so-called black politicians running for mayor and city councilman. And they never called me black.
Wow.
They refer to our people as black. They never called me black. And I can guarantee you they know what this book is. In fact, on one of these so-called Indians videos, they reference this book. And then you tell me they don't know. And you go to the courthouse and you see who's walking out. How come they're walking out to these places? These so-called Indian chiefs and these so-called black politicians, how come they're walking out of these places with these law books, but they don't know colored means fake? They don't know that when you claim to be a minor, you're claiming to be a minority, which is an infant and ward of the state, meaning the Europeans own you. They don't know that? You're telling me that these people I had
Yes.
conversations with don't know that a mortgage is fraud? You're going to tell me that? I'm going to tell you out of your goddamn mind. Speak to these people. In an intelligent tone and see what they say. You don't have to be hostile, mean, nothing. And they'll tell you from their own mouth if they're your enemy or not.
Someone.
Let's do a quick test. Now again, if you do not believe me, this book, didn't I just show you that document from the Superior Court of Rhode Island, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Superior Court of Rhode Island is 250 Benefit Street. Go to the 8th floor, that's the law library. Ask the clerk for Black's Law Dictionary, 5th edition, and she will give you this book. Go to any attorney's office, look at their library. This book will be there. They don't know.
Is there any way to get an official copy?
Amazon. Let's see what all these people know.
Thank you.
This is the definition of color. What they call us colored people, right?
Yeah.
That's what they call us, right? Colored, right?
Yeah, color.
Color, in appearance, semblance, or simulacrum, as distinguished from that which is real. So when we say we're colored, we're saying we're what?
Fake.
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 So do fake persons have human rights?
No.
So now do you question why these cops can just kill colored people, which means fake people, and then not go to jail?
Trayvon Martin.
And you're going to tell me these politicians don't know this when this is dealing with the law. Politicians know what? The law.
Aren't they playing mock trial when they?
Of course, they're playing. And then we do research on the actual Inquisition, which the democracy is a continuation of the Spanish Inquisition, waged against the Moors by Europeans. During the Inquisition, they had a panel of attorneys that the Inquisitionists would choose from. Attorneys, their own boys, right? And then these attorneys call each other what? Brothers and sisters, right? Which dealing with these fraternal orders, right? And then across the street from 6th District Court is a what? Masonic Lodge, right? During the Inquisition, these Inquisitionists will pick from a pool of their attorneys and then just play court when it's their boy. So if you're my boy, and you're my boy, right? And we're trying to charge you, you're the public defender in this case. You're the prosecutor in this case.
So it's just electing roles.
Right? You're the prosecutor. We're going to charge you blah, 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 blah. You speak with her to get her to make a deal. Because we're just going to reap the benefits anyway. Because if she's paying you, she's paying all of us. Because then she got to pay court fees, your fee. So when she pays the court, she's paying us too. Because she's the city solicitor.
You come in and say, you gotta take this deal.
Yeah. And then, by the way, make her pay, $10,000 that she owes you. we'll say 2,000 for court fees, right? And then have her do the time anyway. 6 months. She'll be fine with that. She'll know law anyway, she's stupid. There to I'll play the judge. Madam, did you speak to the district attorney? Did he defend you? Then I'll be up here on my bench. Did you sign this? So you agree to this? You understand that you're waiving your right to trial by jury? You understand you're waiving that the state has to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that you did A, B, C, D, E, F, and G? You say yes. All right, go ahead. Sign it with the what's that shit called? The typewriter.
Yeah.
Stenographer. Go ahead and sign that, and then ready. Dismissed. Fake. All of it. Any other questions?
Someone online had a question about, it's a little bit unrelated, I think.
As well?
They said they heard someone online named Sabir Bey talking about the flag being a colonized flag.
Well, hearsay evidence is admissible. I would have to hear him say it.
Hmm.
But what I do know is that my prophet said the Moorish flag is a red flag with a 5-pointed green star in the middle. So that's what I'm going with what my prophet said, not someone after the prophet. So I don't care what anyone else said. My prophet, I don't care if you believe this or not, but my prophet, the dude that looks like me, who said, I'm not Negro, black, and colored, and told me this, I'm believing what he's saying. And I got cases dismissed based on this knowledge, I'll believe what he said. Prophet, no bourgeoisie, that's what I'm listening to.
So would you like to close with the things to be read at every meeting?
Yeah, thank you for allowing me. I wanted to monopolize on this clickbait, saying how to authenticate a birth certificate when that's not what this is about. So the prophet said that these are the things to be read at every meeting. And I threw in something else that he wrote. Caveat emptor. This is for the cowards. The co-wards. Co-wards. Moors are men. The word men means to think. So Moors are thinkers. Has nothing to do with gender. Upright, independent, and hashtag fearless. You didn't say hashtag. Who care for their loved ones and follow the prophet to a destiny which is not uncertain nor unknown. They are fortified by the impregnable doctrine built upon love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. It is therefore folly. It is therefore folly at its greatest heights for smelly culprits with insidious plans to invade such a realm. They try, but their own bad planning bring down wrath upon their heads like the sword old Damocles had. Intrigue and scurrilous cunning find a difficult path to travel within the ranks of the Moors. This is so because the Moorish movement, he didn't say temple, the Moorish movement has been well planned by Prophet Noble Ali, whose latent powers are abundant, unknown, and may be called into action as a matter of defense at any moment. Prophet Noble Ali knows the people within his ranks who are interested. They are the vanguard of the Moorish movement, not the temple. The Moorish movement, as the Moorish hordes increase here in America. And look up the definition of horde. Would you like me to? You don't do it now. Okay. All of the Moors are active, not passive. A member's interest can only be in one direction. And having traveled over the roads years before, the prophet knows where every member is along the road. A few feet below is another road where schemers work. Authenticate birth certificate. Where traders grin. Don't listen to those Moors. And culprits bask in the sun. I'm the supreme grand nobody. Yeah. They think they're on the same road with true Moors, but the Moors are high above on a pinnacle where they might view the destructionists as they fall for the last time and their bones bleach in the sultry midday sun. Hungry scavengers flying high, catch scent, devour, and leave crying out, caveat emptor! Cast out the dead carcass. The Moors high above see these plotters, purveyors, the worst that exist, hurl themselves downward by their own works as the hawks await. Now that is poetic justice. Because these people will excuse me. These people will get away from more science, think that they can just do A, B, C, D, E, F, G because they know something now. Make a mistake and say, oh, he's teaching bad stuff and it hurt me because they're incompetent. Don't listen to those more, they'll get you sent to Guantanamo Bay. How come I got like 6 cases dismissed?
How come you're not in jail?
How come I'm able to walk into a federal court
With your nationality
with my
card?
nationality card and they don't arrest Jamal Abdul Bay if this is going to end up in, this is going to put you in Guantanamo Bay? How's it that I got a docket number with Jamal Abdul Bay versus Nick Oldfield in federal court, but this is going to put you in Guantanamo Bay? How is that possible?
How were you able to fly on a plane with your nationality card?
How was I able to do that? How was I able to have a meeting with city councilwoman if Moore's a terrorist? How?
Nick Oldfield is the president of the.
Nick Oldfield is one of the CEOs of specialized loan servicing, specialized loan whatever. One of these fake mortgage companies are robbing our people. That's who he is.
So you're suing the person, not the mortgage company.
I'm suing him and the mortgage company.
And the
Yeah.
people.
But his name is first.
Yes.
CEO of SPLC LLC,
Yeah.
and then the entity itself.
Yes. So everyone, the straw and the person and everyone that's.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
That's how you
And
sue
he
somebody.
assigns, assignees, assigners, agents, agency, principal, all of that. All you can get.
That's how you do it.
That's what real thinkers do, man. Thinkers.
Yes.
To be proclaimed at every meeting. So this, to my knowledge, was written by the prophet when he was unlawfully arrested. So during the time of the prophet, there was dirty Moors. He told us not to call them niggers, so. Dirty, filthy, disgusting Moors, jealous of the prophet's fame and nobility, trying to disqualify him, although he's the reason they got fezzes on. Trying to say, don't follow him, follow me now. They ended up murdering another Moor while the prophet was touring the country. The prophet came back, then he got arrested because he was the head of the organization, so they tried him with RICO. Long story short, he was let free. So while he was in jail, he wrote this letter. To my knowledge. And also to my knowledge, there's another letter that he wrote telling the Moors to celebrate his birthday.
When?
As our Christmas. When he was locked up.
When his birthday? That's
You know his birthday? January 8th, 1886.
Wait, it's January 8th?
Yeah.
Oh, my birthday's January
Hey.
8th.
Word.
Marbles.
Oh, found it. Nice, yeah.
Oh, good.
This is what the prophet said. I'm glad to know that I have a few faithful Moors among you all, and I desire for them to know the truth and the divine truth. There's a host of jealousy about me and the movement
Okay.
by the same people of our side of the nation. Now, are these Europeans on our side of the nation?
No.
No. Which means what? We're separate from them. I claim that I was only a joke and unreal. Oh, that's the redemption stuff. But now, since they have found out from the government officials and the nations of the earth, now, we just have a meeting with the city councilwoman?
Mm-hmm.
Oh. That this is the only sole foundation that all Asiatics must depend upon for their earthly salvation as American citizens. America, North, South, Central America, all the islands.
It didn't say U.S. citizen.
Nope. They're working every scheme that they can to disqualify me so that they may take charge of the situation. So when you see these Moors saying, come to the temple to get the true teachings,
But we ain't teaching you this.
You don't
Civics.
I've notified all these things to you long ago in the past. It is through the faithful Moors that attribute to the movement, and uplifting funds. The ones that paid their divine respect to me and the movement will be remembered. That is why I'm calling upon all faithful Moors to increase their faithfulness to me, your prophet, and your divine Moorish movement. He didn't say your Moorish Science Temple of America. He said your divine Moorish movement. That's what he said. I need finance and I need it badly. Why? Because these dirty Moors are saying, come to this temple, pay dues here. Give us your energy while we just stay stagnant. Well, you know, I got a nice car and I got nice shoes and I got a nice suit. Wait a minute, I'm pushing past it.
Fine, then
But that's going right over your face. Because you think, because you got a good heart, and your morals are where they should be, that that person in front of you does. That's not what that means. So he said, I need finance and I need it badly. Never before have I needed finance so badly as I do at present, so I can shove aside the discord that is facing the nation. It all comes through jealousy because of his fame and nobility. Which is why they say, come to the temple. We do the real teachers of Prophet Noble Drali, so they're speaking for him. How? He's dead. That's them showing you they're trying to suck off his reputation to benefit their lives. That's what they're doing. Cowards. And what they're doing is treason. What's the punishment for treason?
Death.
Death. Because they're not just affecting adults. They're stealing from children. And they'll smile in your face.
Yep.
Come on, brother. They'll call you brother. They also call you family. You know my family. Come over here. Smile right in your face while they do it. It all comes through jealousy because of his fame and nobility. The nations of the world will not recognize the movement without the prophet being head. It has been proven by his works, which he has performed in the past few years. To the members of the Moorish Science Temple of America, this is the instruction from your prophet, Nabu Ali. Be faithful unto your forefathers' divine and national creed that you may be blessed for your good deeds that you sow in the flesh. Allah is the one that judges the world, and his judgment is on now. But the weak can comprehend the power. Not physically weak, mentally weak. The end of time is drawing near, so says Allah to his divine prophet, I, Nabu Ali. And that's why many hearts have been turned to stone, and many have eyes to see but cannot see, ears to hear but cannot hear, and at least they will be confounded of their sins. Now imagine this, right? You're 40 years old, imagine that. You're 40 years old. You have 40 years worth of experience, right? Now imagine, for 40 years of your life, you've been teaching your people, we're Indians. We got proud Indian heritage, right? Can you imagine that? And you've been telling your mom, your sisters, your cousins, your community members, I'm the chief of this Indian tribe, right? Can you imagine being confronted with more science? That means 40 of your lifelong years was a lie. You think these people are going to turn away from that? Or are they going to defend their fraud?
And the fraud. To their best of their ability too.
Same thing with these so-called black people.
Yeah.
Ain't no difference. Same thing with the NAACP, because they think, nah, my black leaders wouldn't lie to me. Nah, my Indian chief wouldn't lie to me. Because they're applying their heart on the heartless. They're applying their morals on those who have none. Don't do that. Are we clear on that?
clear.
I mean, you can if you want, if you choose to. We got free will. I'm trying to humbly suggest that you don't. Because I look these people in the eyes. They often don't look at you in the eyes because their soul's gone. And they don't call me black. Ever. But you believe whatever you want. Where was I? Many have eyes to see but cannot see, ears to hear but cannot hear. At least they will be confounded of their sins. That's their sin. Also taking payoffs by the Europeans to sell your people out for over 40 years.
Survival.
Al Sharpton.
These are trying hours now, dear Moors, and every evil spirit is moving. They are trying every weak mind to overthrow and drag out the true foundation that has been laid, and to cause confusion in the minds of the ones that do believe. Now, what's the foundation of the Moorish movement? The minds of the people, not some goddamn temple. The minds of the people. Without the people, there is no temple. This is the temple. What are these called?
Temples.
Your temples. What's in the middle of that?
Your
Your
pineal
brain.
gland.
What does your brain do? It thinks.
Things, yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Fire! Let's go.
But if you have the true love of Allah in the spirit breath of your forefathers, you fear not what you hear or see, but will sacrifice the utmost of your very life to protect your prophet and your temple. It's yours. Not some grand sheik, not some supreme grand sheik, not some grand governor, not some sheik. Yours. Which means this is supposed to benefit who? You. Meaning if that grand sheik got a nice car and you don't, guess who's wrong? Them. If that grand sheik got a mansion and you don't, guess who's wrong? Them. And guess who's also wrong? You for allowing it. If these temple mortals are saying you got to be part of a temple so we can grant you, confer nationality, when the prophet said, this is what the prophet said right here? Just read it. This is what the prophet said, not these grand sheiks. There is no one who's able to change man from his decent nature of his forefathers unless his power extends beyond the great universal creator Allah himself. That's your bloodline. So these temples are giving you your bloodline? And you're going to allow that? Because they're preying on you being ignorant? We're going to allow that. So again, if you have the true love of Allah, in the spirit of your forefathers, you fear not what you hear or see, because they use fear. If you do that stuff, you're going to go to Guantanamo Bay. They're going to kill you. They kill our brothers and sisters in the streets. To put fear in your mind. But the Quran says, don't fear death. So the prophet saying, don't fear death, then telling you to fear death. Who are you going to listen to? I'm going to tell you again who I'm listening to. Prophet Noble Drew Ali, not these GD cowards. Because they're cowards. You fear not what you hear or see. You'll sacrifice the utmost of your very life to protect your movement and your prophet. Because if you don't, who will? If you don't, what chance do these children have? If you don't, what chances do their children have? And then guess what happens to you? You gotta come back. So what chance do you have? Because didn't the prophet say man tries on this earth plane for many ages until your lessons are all learned up? So you're coming back. So you might want to reap some good things that you saw in the flesh when you come back. Watch your enemies, dear Moors. The enemies are the ones that speak against your prophet and ridicule him to the very lowest. And the ones that speak against your divine and national principles of your temples. So these Moors are saying, why are the sisters wearing fezzes? What the prophet just called them? Enemies. Enemies of what? Enemies of the state. Which means what? That's treason. Which means what?
Yeah.
Act accordingly, and Allah will bless you for your good work. Peace, the divine prophet, Noble Drew Ali. The prophet warns all Muslims to be ready in every meeting. I hereby inform all members that they must end all radical speeches while at work, in their homes, or on the streets. We are for peace and not destruction. Stop flashing your cards at Europeans. It causes confusion. Remember, your card is for your salvation. Failure to obey these orders will be a severe consequence. We are for love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. And when these principles are violated, justice must take its course. Any member or group of members who hold malicious feelings towards the temple or the prophet, or violate the divine covenant of the Moorish movement, not the temple, will receive their reward from Allah for their unjust deeds. All true Moors will and must obey the law as laid down to them by their prophet, not some guy that came after him. If they lose confidence in their prophet, they should turn in their card and button, cease wearing their turban and fez, and return to the state where the prophet found you. I'm just going to read that one more time. All true Moors will and must obey the law as laid down to them by their prophet. Now, the reason why I keep emphasizing that is because the prophet called us American citizens, and some supreme, well, I got this title guy said, we were never citizens of anything, so who are you going to listen to?
Mm. Right.
This is a holy and divine movement founded by the prophet Noble Drawley, that the prophet is not right, the temple is not right. The prophet, therefore, sending out the divine plea to all Moorish Americans that they do their part in protecting their prophet and the temple. This is an everlasting movement founded by the prophet through the will of Allah to redeem his people from their sinful ways. Peace, Prophet Noble Drawley. And before we end it, I want to read another thing. So if you're ever confused about the Moorish Divine and National Movement, read this document. And it is posted on the wall of the temple so anyone and their mom and their cat's dog can read this. This is a divine warning by the prophet for the nations. S. Nations. I'm pointing at flags. This is from the prophet. This is what the prophet said. The citizens of all free national governments. Let me stop right there. How many words did I just say? The citizens of all free national governments. What's the United States?
A corporation.
Corporation.
Yes. But
Business.
what is its structure? What is it? Is it a national government
It's not a national.
or is it a federal government?
Federal.
Right? Google it. What is the United States? Google it right now, please. The United States is a blank government. What is that blank?
De facto.
Just Google it, please. You're right. It is.
The blank government.
A what?
Federal.
It's a what?
The federal government of the United States
So the United States is a federal government.
is a national government of the United States, a federal.
A federal government.
Yes.
You said they slid the word national in there?
Yes.
Federal.
How?
How, swear?
Federal.
Well, how about this one? The United States federal government shut down.
So it's a what? Federal government, right?
Yeah.
So the prophet just said the citizens of all free national governments. So why are these more saying we're citizens of the United States when the United States is a federal government? 7. The first 7 words that this man just said disqualifies 90% of these dirty Moors.
Oh,
You see why Moors say study, study, study?
Canaan land Moors, that was clickbait.
Yeah, it was the case. You see what?
They said don't do it. You can't authenticate a debt instrument.
Yeah, just like you can't lean Santa Claus a slave. So the first 7 words that the prophet said automatically shuts 90% of these people up saying we're citizens of the United States. When the United States said federal government, the prophet said a national one. You see why we might want to listen to the prophet?
Mm.
According to their national constitution, are all of one family bearing one free national name. Now, if you're a Moor, you're a Moor, you're a Moor, you're a Moor, I'm a Moor, she's a Moor, he's a Moor, and he's a Moor. And then the European walks in, what's their nationality? German. Are they Moors?
No.
So that means that this don't apply to them, huh?
No.
Right? Because they're not bearing that one free national name that we got. They're German. We're Moors. 2 different things. So how are we citizens of that? Right? Those who fail to recognize the free national name of their constitutional government are classed as undesirables and are subject to all inferior names and abuses and mistreatments that the citizens care to bestow upon them. Who's that sound like? Black people. And it is a sin for any group of people who violate the national constitutional laws of a free national government and cling to the names and principles that allude to slavery. Now, didn't the so-called slave master call us black, right? And then in 1492, Christopher Columbus allegedly came here and said, y'all are Indians. So someone else called us that. And you're going to claim to be, that makes sense to you? So if I say, your last name is Smith now, you going to go with it?
Your name is Toby.
Oh, wow.
That's what happened.
So it is. They're basically
On the
on
birth certificate,
You got
the
it.
birth
It's a birth
certificate,
certificate.
it does says Toby. I have my birth certificate, it says Toby.
Seriously?
That's very easy.
Toby,
Your name's not even Toby.
I know, but it says it on any birth certificate.
To be?
Like, transferring from
Oh.
Indian to
Oh, yeah.
American, it says Toby, the birth, the person, and the parents, and then it just has Toby in there.
Do you have the shot as
Wow.
well? Like the brand that they give you before coming over here?
I mean, they give you like medical shots prior because the United Nations or wherever, they go to all the quote unquote nations and give you like, I have that.
That little like brag.
Yeah, I had that on my.
I had that too.
Yeah?
When I went to Japan, yeah. They like stabbed
The immigrant shot. Yeah.
Until the bone. Yeah, I have
Little
that.
match.
I would have refused.
I, the prophet, was prepared by the great God Allah to warn my people to repent from their sinful ways and go back to that state of mind of their forefathers' divine and national principles, that they will be law abiders, which Round John Law says adverse possession, right?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, we gotta abide by that. And receive their divine rights as citizens, according to the free national constitution that was prepared for all free national beings. They're to claim their own national name and religion, which when you study the Christian Black Codes, Christianity was forced on us. Just like the name Black, Negro, Colored, Indian, West Indian, Afro-Latina, African-American, Latino, Hispanic, Afro-Rican, Latinx, Afro-futurist, or whatever they have that.
Now they have
Afro-Brazilian.
Afro-Brazilian.
Just
I got an Afro, does that make me Afro-Moorish? You got braids, so that makes you braid Moorish? Braid Latino?
I mean, you're from Africa, so all of the continent choose a nation or whatever.
Afro-Haitian.
African.
There's but one issue for them to be recognized by this government and of the earth, and it comes only through what? The connection of the Moorish divine and national movement. Does that say temple?
No.
Moorish divine and national movement. Y'all see that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Great. Which is incorporated in this government and recognized by all nations of the world. Incorporated. Corporation. Corp. Body. Asian. Action. Body and action. All governments are corporations. All governments are bodies, human bodies, in action, doing things, progressing, making law, creating law, enforcing law. Those are all actions. Human. Hue, invoke. Man, mind, the invoking mind. Tracking? You sure?
Yes.
Because there's some more that say corporations are bad. They're all. Don't be confused by people who are confused. And through it, meaning the Moorish Divine National Movement, they and their children can receive their divine rights unmolested by other citizens, that they can cast a free national ballot at the polls under the free national constitution of the state's government, and not under a granted privilege as has been existing condition for many generations, talking about the 14th and 15th Amendment. In the state is a group of people bound together by common law, period. What's that common law? Our common descent. Our ancestry, us being Moors, period. Hence, they had Louis Anderson as alderman in Chicago, and Oscar the Priest as congressman, representing Moors. Not no paleface representing Moors. Not some man claiming to be black. Moors. Because in the acts that the prophet set forth said, with us all members must proclaim their nationality. So ain't no way Oscar the Priest and Anderson is sitting next to the prophet and then say they're Moors. Ain't no way. That's right. Aretha Franklin.
Mhm. You're at 2 hours and 15 minutes.
Great. They're loving these 2 hours.
No, I'm not stopping.
You who doubt whether I, the prophet, and my principles are right for the redemption of my people, go to those that know law in the city hall and amongst the officials in your government, ask them under an intelligent tone, and they'll be glad to render you a favorable reply. For they are glad to see me bring you out of darkness into marvelous light. Now, how happy was that councilwoman when she seen us in there?
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't she happy? Wasn't she
Yeah.
happy?
Mhm.
And then that first meeting, wasn't that European dude say, "Oh, it's great to see y'all in here"? Wasn't it like that?
Yep.
She gave us his card. Wasn't y'all happy?
Mm-hmm.
That sounds like exactly what the prophet said, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
I'm ready for maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Can't wait.
Wasn't the councilwoman like, so what do you guys want from me?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Eager.
Yes.
You gonna doubt what this man said when y'all was in the room?
Mm-hmm.
Y'all seen it for yourself. Jamal didn't do that. We did that.
Yes.
We, not me. I'm not. You don't listen to me, like.
Now listen here and listen good. This is
We
what.
did that. We did that. Right? Money doesn't make the man. It is free national standards and power that makes a man and a nation. The wealth of all national governments, gold and silver and commerce, belong to the citizens alone. To avoid that.
Mm.
And without your national citizenship by name and principles, you have no true wealth. And I'm hereby calling on all citizens. So when the prophet calls us citizens, and these idiots say, Moors were never citizens or nothing, and they're claiming to be supreme judicial whatever, who are you listening to? The prophet or some man that came over 100 years after the prophet? I'm going to listen to the prophet. I don't know about y'all.
Mm-hmm.
That stand for a national free government. Did I say federal government or a national free government? Someone let me use their glasses. National government and the enforcement of the Constitution to help me in my great missionary work. Enforcement of the Constitution. Not some redemption manual. The Constitution. To help me in my great missionary work because I need all support from all true American citizens.
Not U.S. citizens.
Of the United States of America. Now, what's the official name of Mexico? The United States of Mexico. So Mexico's what? Part of the United States of America. How? Because America is 2 continents and a bunch of islands. That's how.
In Brazil too, part of the United
Brazil,
States.
yeah. And guess what's the official name of Brazil? The United States of Brazil.
Mhm.
So when you say you're a U.S. citizen, the United States of what? What country?
Oh,
Brazil.
Brazil, Morocco.
I'm good. I'm a great Mexican.
I'm being facetious.
Oh, no.
I'm depending on, help me to save my people who have fallen from the constitutional laws of government. So let me just go back to here, where it says money doesn't make a man. I was living with my mom for a while, supporting her, right, giving her finance, and I lived there. There was a 30-year-old dude, called himself Black, had his own apartment when he was getting evicted. Dishes in the sink piled up like crazy. He said, and I had a car, he didn't. He said, you're not a man because you still live with your mother. Meanwhile, I'm going to court with him to try to fight so he don't get evicted because he wasn't paying rent.
Or clean his dishes.
Or washing dishes.
He could defend himself.
But he was calling me not a man because I live with my mom and I was supporting my mother. I'm supporting the woman that created me. And I'm not a man.
I mean, you probably disregarded it.
No, I did. I did. I'm just saying, when we hear that from our people, when they're sleeping on couches, they're getting evicted and they're going to the mall to buy a fake gold grill so we can go to the strip club and he's getting evicted. You might want to pay attention to who you're listening to. Pay attention to who's putting information in your brain. Pay attention to these people saying, authenticate this birth certificate, you get all this money, and they're asking you for something. And it ain't even money. So if you got the keys to millions of notes, what do you need my notes for? How am I not a man when you getting evicted? And I got a car and you don't. You see the principles? see how we got it backwards?
Or they will call you.
You send it
mama's
back to
boy.
our people, but you're saved? Because you believe in God?
They will say you're mama's boy.
Right? They call you a mama's boy because you're
Mama's
supporting
boy,
the woman
yeah.
that created you.
Created you.
Like
yeah.
it's supposed to be
Like it's
some
something
kind of
wrong
like
with
yeah,
that.
right.
You know?
I mean,
You're supporting your
back
family,
home in
you're not
Jamaica,
family.
you live with your mom, you don't look no type of way, you support her. But
Yeah.
over
The
here, you
prophet
do
said.
it. It says crazy. Oh, you still live with your mom. They look at you like it's
Mhm.
crazy.
Yeah. So they think struggling on your own
Yeah.
makes
Right.
you more of a man than supporting your family.
That's a U.S. thing. I've been telling him that a lot about that. That's a very much a U.S. thing because when you travel to other countries, most people are 30 years old, have a whole husband, a family, still living with their family, with their parents, with their brother and sister who also have children. They all live together because they all contribute to the household and they all help take care of each other. And the prophet said, upright, independent, and fearless, who care for their loved
Those are
ones.
some of the best times.
With your family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just talked to a Portuguese employee, and she has an extended family. I mean, her grandparents still live with her, and she's of an age, but her children live with her
My
as
grandma
well.
was living
And
over
her
here with me
children's
right now.
wife.
Mhm.
So it's, and she kept saying, you know, we're family, and we kind of support each other, and we work with one another, but she was stating that like 30 minutes away is another son who's on his own, and they don't have anyone to pick up the kids after school.
Mm.
But if they're
Struggling.
closer,
Yeah.
we can help. And
Right.
so she was expressing all of that, so,
Mm.
so yeah, family kind of matters.
Mhm.
So we
Some
think
cultures.
I'm a strong, independent black man and black woman, so I'm gonna go out and struggle. That makes you a man? That makes you a woman? That? You getting evicted because you can't pay rent, that makes you strong? But not supporting your family?
Helping
So
to
send it back
support
our
them
people,
and
makes you a man.
yourself.
But not supporting your family.
and this, no.
Going to jail makes you a man, but not supporting your family. Buying Gucci this and Gucci that, while you sleep on a couch, makes you a man, but not supporting your family. I'm confused. So the prophet continues by saying, I'm depending on your support to get back, to get them back to the constitutional fold again. That they will learn to love instead of hate, and will and will live according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, supporting our free national constitution of the United States of America. Excuse me. The prophet continues to say, I love my people, and I desire their unity and mine. See the connection? Meaning he wasn't living in this mansion and these nice suits while we weren't. You know what I'm saying? So all these grand chiefs dressed to impress, they got this and that, what you got? When the prophet said this is your movement, not theirs. So he says, I love my people and I desire their unity and mine back to their own national and divided standard. Because day by day they have been violating the national and constitutional laws of their government by claiming names and principles that are unconstitutional. If Italians, Greeks, English, Chinese, Japanese, Turks, and Arabians are forced to proclaim their free national name and religion before the constitutional government of the United States of America, it is no more than right that the law should be enforced upon all other American citizens alike. In all other governments, when a man is born and raised there and asks for his national descent name, and if he fails to give it, he is misused, imprisoned, or exiled. What does that sound like? Black people. Any group of people that fail to answer up to the constitutional standards of law by name and principles, because to be a citizen of any government, you must claim your national descent name. So how are you a citizen and claim to be black when that's not your name? Because they place their trust upon issues and names formed by their forefathers, the Treaty of Peace and Friendship. You tracking? So if I'm a Moor, and you're an Englishman, and we got a treaty meaning we're not going to kill each other, right? You're also an Englishman, but then you claim to be something else, and you come to me, I don't know you. I got an agreement with the English. I don't know who you are. These Europeans got treaties with Moors, not blacks. They got treated with Moors, not Afro-Latinas. Treated with Moors, not Negroes. Moors, not coloreds. Moors, not Afro-futurists. Moors, not Afro-Americans.
Or Moors are not white,
Yeah, Moors and not whites.
Christians.
Tracking? That's that trust. That's Article 6 of the Constitution. That's constitutional. That's you're not speaking to me. Because this is a state level jurisdiction and you have no jurisdiction because it's of a treaty nature, which is federal. So go get your boss. Tracking? The word Negro deludes in the Latin language to the word nigger. The same as the word color deludes to anything that is painted, varnished, and dyed. And I already showed you color means fake. So when they paint a landscape, that's a fake landscape. Color. And every nation must bear a national descent name of their forefathers, because honoring thy fathers and thy mothers, your days will be lengthened upon this earth land. These names have never been recognized by any true American citizen of this day. What do the Haitians call themselves? Haitians.
It used to be called Hittites.
Do they call themselves black? Do they call themselves Haitians?
Haitians.
When they're at the United Nations, do they say we're black people? Or do they say they're Haitians?
Haitians.
Issues. So,
Is that complicated?
Nope.
And every nation must bear a national descent name of their forefathers, because honoring thy fathers and thy mothers, your days will be lengthened upon this earth. These names have never been recognized by any true American citizen of this day, which Haiti is part of the organization of what? American states, so Haitians are what? Americans. Through your free national name, you are known and recognized by all nations of the earth that are recognized by said national government in which they live. The 14th and 15th Amendment brought the North and South in union, placing the Southerners, who were at the time without power, within a constitutional body of power. And at that time, 1865, the free national constitution that was enforced since 1774 declared all men equal and free, which is that Declaration of Independence that I read. And if all men, minds, thinkers, are declared by the free national constitution to be free and equal, since that constitution has never changed, there is no need for the application of the 14th and 15th Amendment for the salvation of our people and citizens. So anyone coming to this land, don't need to be naturalized via the so-called 14th Amendment. All of our people in South America are trying to come up here for a better life, saying, well, I'm going to be a citizen of the United States. BS. This is your land too. So all these people coming to visit our land, it's incumbent upon them to help us so we can help them. Because the United States is robbing them too. The Europeans are robbing them too. They come here looking for a better quality of life and realize, oh, I'm just an indentured servant now via the 14th Amendment, and I agree. Ain't no difference.
14th Amendment's not bad.
No, in which this is posted on the board, and I copied the congressional record stating that. So, there isn't but one supreme issue for my people to use to redeem that which has been lost, and that is through the above statements. Then the lion and the lamb can lie down in yonder hills, because the treaty will be enforced. Who's going to enforce the treaty, Jamal? The Moors. We are our salvation, not someone else. Where's the Moors' government? Well, government means to govern the mind. The government is reflective of the people. The people is you. You're the government. You might want to start participating.
Oh, we were thanks to
That's right, we're that fast. And neither will be harmed, because love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice will be reigning in the land. In those days, the United States will be one of the greatest civilized and prosperous governments of the world. But if the above principles are not carried out by the citizens and my people, meaning we have a responsibility in this government, the worst is yet to come. Because the great God of the universe is not pleased with the works that are being performed in North America by my people. And this great sin must be removed from the land to save it from enormous earthquakes, diseases, etc. And I, the prophet, do hereby believe that this administration of government, who is he talking about?
The free national government.
I'll read that again. And I, the prophet, do believe that this administration of government, being more wisely prepared by more genius citizens that believe in their free national constitution and laws, and through the help of such classes of citizens, I, the prophet, truly believe that my people will find the true and divine way of their forefathers and learn to stop serving carnal customs and merely ideas of man that have never done them any good but have always harmed them. Now what did he say? From our Sunday schools come what? The leaders or the guiders of our nation. So who the hell was he talking about? Moors. Get it? How he talked about, he believed that this administration of government be more wisely prepared. Prepared by who? Him. Where? To the Moor Science Temple of America. Who's he teaching? Moors. So who's the salvation?
Yeah.
Moors. What are those Moors doing? Wasting their time trying to authenticate and lean a goddamn birth certificate. You're trying to authenticate and lean Santa Claus is slave.
Someone on here is trying to spread information saying you can't own it, but you can control it and everything.
You can't own Santa Claus is slave, but you can control it.
Yeah, they said, hold on, they're telling,
they got Santa Claus slave
they're
right
telling someone it's because,
1914.
It's not something you can just sit there and just like.
No. Let's just leave Santa Claus is slave. Why not?
they're saying because the Constitution does not apply in the private, because the Constitution is public law and nobody was party to it except for those who originally signed that contract.
Yeah.
Please don't. This is misinformation, people, just so you know.
This is what the Constitution says. This Constitution and the laws of the United States which shall be made in pursuance thereof, and all treaties made or which shall be made under the authority of the United States, shall be the supreme law of the land. Any questions on that?
No.
Continuing. And the judges in every state shall be bound thereby. Anything in the Constitution or laws of any state to the contrary, what? Notwithstanding. So when people say stuff like that, you go to the Constitution. Because it's what? The supreme
Law
what?
of the land.
Law of the land. And where you doing that private contracting on? The land. Any questions? So again, can you authenticate Santa Claus as slave?
Nope.
Can you not own it, but can you control Santa Claus as slave?
No.
Because Santa Claus is a private slave. Can you do that? Because Santa Claus is artificial, right? He's fake, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like the strong man, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you can authenticate the birth certificate, that means you can claim an interest in Santa Claus as slave, right? Listen to the prophet. So I, the prophet, and hereby calling aloud with a divine plea to all all true American citizens, to help me to remove this great sin which has been committed and is being practiced by my people in the United States of America, because they know it is not the true and divine way, and without understanding they have fallen from the true light into utter darkness of sin. Authenticate the birth certificate. And there is not a nation on earth today that will recognize them socially, religiously, politically, or economically, etc., in their present condition of their endeavorment in which they themselves try to force upon a civilized world. They will not refrain from their sinful ways of action, and their deeds have brought Jim Crowism, segregation, and everything that brings harm to human beings on earth. And they have fought the Southerner for these great misuses. But I have traveled in the South and have examined conditions there, and it is the works of my people continuously practicing the things which bring dishonor, disgrace, and disrespect to any nation that lives a life. And I'm hereby calling on all true American citizens for moral support and finance to help me in my great missionary work to bring my people out of darkness into marvelous light. From the prophet, Noble Drew. And then after that, I put scanned copy of the congressional record showing where the 14th Amendment is constitutional, which supports what the prophet said.
It's unconstitutional.
Huh?
Unconstitutional.
What did I say?
Constitutional.
Oh, unconstitutional 14th Amendment. Excuse me. Any questions? I'm getting the cue to wrap it up, but I don't want to wrap it up. Any questions?
2 hours and 35 minutes.
I was just reading an article on a Mount Vernon, New York. The mayor, they called the police on him when he was at the bank, says that someone, and they're gonna go down to the bottom to see who did it, told the police on the mayor. The mayor was in the thing, waiting for information, you know, when they make it out, plus, or to make a deposit, and he said if it wasn't for the Secret Service, who was with the wagon, knowing the, the officers that were injured, then it would have been, not a good thing. So he's actually, one of these, when he came into talking about how, how, you would do that to a black people.
So, additionally, people will lie to your face and say, authenticate a birth certificate, you can discharge all these debts. The municipality around here is called the City of Providence, right? And Gina Raimondo is the governor of the European colony known as the state of Rhode Island, right? And this document I got from the City of Providence Recorder of Deeds, right? And it says release of mortgage, deed of trust, right? And it talks about the undersigned for and in consideration of payment. It don't say payment, it says we consider payment, which means there was no payment. The payment of indebtedness secured and the cancellation, did I say paid?
Nope.
The cancellation of all the notes, did I say money?
Nope.
Thereby secured in the sum of $1. The receipt whereof is hereby acknowledged, is hereby remiss, release, satisfied, conveying quick claim onto Andrew K. Moffitt and Gina M. Raimondo, tenants by the entirety, heirs, legal representatives, successors, and or assignees, and assigns all right, title, interest, claim, or demand whatsoever it may have acquired through or by a certain mortgage / deed of trust bearing the date February 18, 2009. That's a discharge. Now ask the governor, did she authenticate a goddamn birth certificate? What she's gonna say? No. Her house, Gina Raimondo's house, which Google this, 525 ELM GROVE Ave, Elm Grove Ave, Providence, Rhode Island, 02906. Her home is worth $700,000.
Oh my God.
Discharged for one,
For $1.
without authenticating crap.
Wow.
And then you'll see certified. And actually, if you don't believe me,
Certified copy.
go to City Hall on Monday.
Wow.
Go to Recorder of Deeds, room 508. Search on the computer, Gina Raimondo. And you'll see this.
Does it have to be the city hall in Rhode Island? Could it be?
Providence.
Could it
Well,
be?
you can go online,
Okay.
but yeah, but since you're here, well, you can just make a special visit on Monday and do it for yourself. Does it say she was a secure party creditor, authenticated the birth certificate, and filed the UCC-1 financial statement into the lien on the straw man? And did she do all that? It don't say none of that. No other questions? No questions.
No questions.
No questions at all. So we understand all of this. So none of y'all better ask me, oh, so when someone asks me this, what do I say? None of that. No more. Y'all get it. No more questions. I'm just playing. Thank y'all for tuning in. Hope you learned something. Long story short, you can't authenticate something that's fake. You can't claim an interest in something that's fake. Just like you can't claim Santa Claus is slave because that ain't real. You can't claim interest in a straw man because that ain't real. Just like you can't get title to Santa Claus is slave, you can't get title to the straw man because it ain't real. So stop trying to get into this bottomless account that's fake. Nationalize, teach your fellow Moors, organize, and get some funding from City Hall to get us out of this BS. Peace.